Ever catch someone staring blankly ahead, kind of oblivious? Or maybe you've noticed a colleague whose responses in meetings feel, well, a little too predictable.
Mm-hmm.
Today on the NPC Energy podcast, our simulated journey takes us down a really fascinating rabbit hole. Can these so-called non-playable characters dream? And, what happens when the background players seem to go off script?
It's a really compelling question. And what's fascinating right from the start is just this idea of categorizing people as non-playable in the grand scheme.
Right.
It forces us to look at our interactions, the assumptions we make about, well, other people's inner lives,
Yeah.
or maybe even our own.
Exactly. We've got these whispers, anonymous sources talking about a red barista with some unusual nighttime activities, plus some genuinely strange real-world stories people are calling NPC awakening moments.
Wow.
And we'll also look at what the science of dreams tells us about our own brains and if those processes might have, parallels in artificial systems.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the broader science, studying consciousness and complex internal states and non-biological things is a really active area.
Oh, for sure.
Thinking about dreams, even just metaphorically for AI, can give us insights into how complex systems process info and maybe develop something kind of like internal representations of the world.
And we're not stopping there. Our simulated journey is also going to touch on rogue AI possibilities, the kind of mind-bending concept of Tulpa theory,
Oh, yeah.
and even a story about an alleged NPC trying to, hand in their notice.
Okay, that one really grabbed you, doesn't it? An NPC trying to quit.
I know.
It implies this level of agency, self-determination that just challenges the whole definition. As we dig into this, we need to think about what awareness or, internal drive would even cause that.
Okay, so let's lay the groundwork. What exactly is an NPC? Now, for anyone maybe not deep in gaming, an NPC non-playable character is basically a character in a video game not controlled by a person. They usually have pre-programmed behaviors. You might see them standing in one spot, saying the same thing over and over, offering a side quest, or just walking a set path.
The key thing there is the pre-programmed part. Their actions, their dialogue, it's all dictated by the code.
Yeah.
They're there to populate the world, give context, sometimes guide the player, but they don't have real autonomy.
But here's where our simulated journey gets really interesting. When you step away from the screen, you start seeing similar patterns, in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that neighbor, we all know one, who cuts their grass every Saturday at exactly 3:07 p.m.
Uh-huh, like clockwork.
Rain or shine, there they are. Or the cashier at the store who greets every single customer with the exact same line, "Did you find everything okay today?" Doesn't matter what their face looks like or how rushed they seem.
And those real-world things, they highlight our human tendency to spot patterns, categorize behaviors. When we see really predictable actions or these scripted interactions, we sometimes slap on the NPC label, often kind of humorously, to describe what looks like a lack of spontaneity.
And this idea, it actually has a history in AI. Believe it or not, back in the 50s, there was this early AI program called ELIZA.
Oh, Eliza, yeah.
Not walking around offering quests, obviously, but it could simulate conversations using a library of preset responses. You'd type something, it would generate a reply based on keywords.
Mm-hmm.
Super basic, but a big early step in mimicking dialogue.
Eliza's whole thing was pattern matching. It wasn't understanding you. It was
yeah.
just finding keywords and pulling a pre-written response. That kind of basic scripted interaction is like a distant ancestor of the complex AI we see now.
Then, fast forward to the 80s, text-based adventure games were big. Interactions were still pretty limited. You type simple commands, go north, take sword.
Yeah, basic parser commands.
And the game responds based on those specific inputs. The characters. Very basic dialogue trees, not many branches. Use the wrong command, you're stuck.
Those early text games set up that fundamental way of interacting with non-player things through specific limited inputs. The tech just limited how complex it could be, so it felt really linear, predictable.
Now, jump ahead to today, and we've got these incredibly sophisticated AI NPCs in modern games.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They're not just spitting out canned lines. They can show what's called emergent behaviors. Think of it like instead of every single action being pre-programmed, the AI has rules, goals, and its behavior kind of arises dynamically from interacting with the game world.
Right, emergent behavior is key.
They react to changes, learn a bit from experiences, and sometimes their actions even surprise the developers, which naturally brings us back to our big question. With this complexity, could they dream?
that concept, emergent behaviors, it's crucial here. It's a shift from just scripts to behaviors popping up from the AI's rules and the dynamic game world.
Yeah.
This complexity kind of blurs the lines between simple programming and maybe a basic form of autonomy. It makes the question of internal states, like dreaming, seem less far-fetched.
Okay, before we dive too deep there, I found this anonymous source detailing something absolutely fascinating about NPC behavior in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, yeah. Great game.
Huge, detailed open-world Western. Apparently, the NPCs have incredibly detailed daily routines, like when they wake up, what chores they do, who they talk to, their relationships with other NPCs.
The level of simulation is wild.
And get this, they can even hold grudges against you, the player, if you mess with them, steal someone's horse. Yeah. They don't just forget. They might actually try to get revenge later.
What's truly amazing about the NPCs in Red Dead 2 is just the sheer depth of their simulated lives. It goes way beyond simple trigger response stuff.
Right.
It creates this feeling of a persistent living world with individuals who have their own routines, their own reactions. That level of sophistication makes you really think about what it means to be non-playable and how close these simulated things are getting to mirroring, well, certain aspects of real social dynamics.
It almost feels like they're more than just window dressing, Which perfectly sets the stage for Act 2 of our simulated journey. Do NPCs dream of electric sheep?
The title itself, obviously, a direct nod to Philip K. Dick's amazing sci-fi novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Classic.
Which, as most people know, inspired Blade Runner. That story just digs so deep into what it means to be human and asks if artificial beings could have inner lives, could dream, feel emotions.
And speaking of Blade Runner, that Rutger Hauer line, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
Oh, iconic.
And it's so powerful because it hints at this rich internal world, right? Experiences way beyond what you see on the surface. It's that suggestion of hidden depths that really fuels this whole conversation about NPCs maybe having something like dreams.
That line just perfectly captures the mystery of consciousness, the potential for unseen complexity in beings, whether they're biological or artificial. It implies a subjective reality we might not be able to access.
Now, let's bring in some actual science. In neuroscience, a leading theory suggests humans dream to process and integrate experiences.
Right, memory consolidation.
It's like our brains are sifting through the day's info, making connections, consolidating memories while we sleep. Some researchers even use the analogy of defragmenting a hard drive.
That's a great analogy, actually.
Tidying up the mental workspace so the system runs better.
Yeah, the idea of dreaming as neural housekeeping, processing info, consolidating memories, maybe even rehearsing scenarios, is a widely accepted functional explanation. It suggests dreaming is vital for our cognitive health.
And this is where our simulated journey takes another twist. Turns out, some advanced AI systems actually use processes that are like dreaming to improve performance.
Really? How so?
Anonymous sources point to Google DeepMind, for instance. They've apparently used these kinds of simulated sleep cycles, letting their AI run internal simulations to learn and refine their algorithms.
That's fascinating. So while this AI dreaming isn't the subjective experience we have,
No, probably not.
it serves a similar purpose. Optimization, learning. By exploring possibilities in a simulation, the AI improves its decision-making, its problem-solving in the real world.
Which then makes you wonder, if our reality is some kind of simulation, could our own dreams just be like beta compression?
Whoa.
The system efficiently organizing and storing our experiences while our conscious minds are offline.
That's a truly mind-bending idea. If we are in a simulation, then lots of things we experience, including how weird dreams can be, could potentially be explained as underlying computer processes.
Yeah.
Data compression. Yeah, that'd be a logical way to manage tons of information.
But here's another thought experiment. A glitch theory, maybe. If we're NPCs in someone else's game, could dreaming be the very way we start to break free from our programming? Could those strange, illogical dreams be moments where we gain a bit of autonomy, start rewriting our own code?
That's a very provocative idea. The often irrational, fluid nature of dreams could be seen as moments when simulation's rules loosen up a bit, allowing for randomness or deviation from the script. It raises that fundamental question. Are there built-in limits in any simulation that might allow for these unexpected glitches or sparks of emergent freedom?
Now hold on tight, because anonymous sources shared some alleged real-life NPC dreaming moments. First up, the sleepwalking barista.
Okay.
There are these unverified accounts floating around of baristas who've apparently made perfect lattes, like totally asleep, going through all the complex steps flawlessly while seemingly unconscious.
Okay, those stories, while definitely intriguing, are super hard to verify scientifically.
Right, anonymous sources and all that.
Sleepwalking is a real thing, complex motor behaviors during non-REM sleep.
Okay.
But the idea of doing highly skilled stuff like latte art while sleepwalking, that's unusual. It makes you wonder how much ingrained procedural memory can operate without conscious awareness.
Then we have the dentist who forgot the script.
Uh-oh.
The story goes, a dentist, mid-procedure drill whirring, suddenly stops, looks at the patient and supposedly asks, why do we do this, really? Then just carries on like nothing happened.
Wow. That kind of abrupt questioning of routine, especially during a demanding task?
Yeah.
Well, you could interpret it lots of ways.
Sure.
Maybe a fleeting existential moment from stress or tiredness or just a weird thought popping up. The NPC glitch idea is colorful, but it does highlight how humans sometimes question the meaning behind everyday actions.
And finally, the sleep-talking incident. This comes from an anonymous online forum. Someone described sleep-talking about waking up inside another dream, but as a background character in that dream.
Okay, that's particularly recursive and kind of unsettling.
Right, being an extra even in your own subconscious.
The idea of being peripheral, even in your own dreamscape, touches on fundamental questions of self-perception, agency. Makes you wonder about different awareness levels in the dreaming mind and if our sense of self is always, front and center.
And before we move on, one more speculative thought. What if déjà vu is just an NPC experiencing a memory leak?
Ha! A memory leak.
Like the simulation briefly replays a bit of your experience, and your subconscious NPC brain flags it as familiar but out of order.
That's a very creative interpretation within our NPC ENERGY framework.
Yeah.
Neuroscience has explanations for déjà vu, like temporal lobe glitches or false familiarity signals.
Yeah, the boring stuff.
But a memory leak in a simulated reality, it's definitely a fun, thought-provoking alternative.
All right, so we've wondered what NPCs are, if they might dream. Now let's dive into Act 3 of our simulated journey, when background characters break script.
This is often where things get really interesting, right? When we see clear deviations from expected patterns. In video games, like you said, it can be funny glitches, Skyrim characters suddenly climbing on tables,
Yeah.
or spouting nonsense dialogue.
It's always good for a laugh when a stoic guard suddenly starts moonwalking or some villager gets stuck in a wall. But it does make you wonder, even in the game's code, what causes these temporary programming breaks?
Well, in game development, these glitches often come from the complex interplay of different systems.
Oh, okay.
Unforeseen consequences of commands interacting weirdly, or just simple coding errors. They highlight how hard it is to create totally seamless, perfectly predictable, simulated worlds.
And it's not just digital. We see parallels in real life, don't we? People suddenly veering off their well-worn paths.
Absolutely.
Someone who's taken the exact same route to work for 20 years suddenly turns down a different street one morning. No obvious reason.
And these deviations can be significant. For some, it might be a conscious choice, wanting some novelty, but other times it could point to deeper shifts in perspective, life circumstances, maybe even their mental state.
Which brings us to a rather extreme example from anonymous sources.
Yeah.
Anatoly Moskvin, the Russian historian.
Oh, that case, yes.
On the surface, seemed quiet, maybe a bit reclusive, but then it was discovered he'd exhumed and mummified dozens of bodies in his home. Talk about an NPC going drastically off script.
The Moskvin case is certainly deeply disturbing, a profound example of behavior way outside typical social norms. And while it's tempting in our framework to call it a script break,
Got to be careful there.
it's crucial to remember real human behavior is shaped by this complex web psychological, social, biological factors. In cases like that, there are often serious underlying psychological issues needing clinical understanding, not just attributing it to a simulation glitch.
Absolutely. A stark reminder that real life is often way more complex, sometimes much darker than games. But
Yeah.
it does make you think, what could cause someone or some entity to suddenly deviate so much?
Let's explore some theories. One idea, memory fragmentation.
Okay.
The thought is, if an entity, AI, or even a human in a super repetitive life experiences too much unbroken routine, it could maybe lead to system errors, like a mental or digital fragmentation causing unexpected behavior.
Like a record skipping, but for your brain. Or its code.
Exactly. Another factor could be external inputs, big life events, shocks to the system.
Like trauma or loss.
Yeah, loss, trauma, or even a sudden burst of inspiration. These intense experiences could fundamentally change thought processes, behaviors, leading people down paths they'd never have considered.
That makes sense. A major life event could totally disrupt someone's trajectory. Then there's a more speculative one. Update failed.
The simulation hypothesis angle.
Right. If reality runs on some underlying system, like a giant program, maybe sometimes system updates don't go right, leading to weird behavioral changes in local NPCs, which could include us.
The update failed theory fits neatly with the simulation idea. It suggests glitches or inconsistencies we perceive could be signs of underlying computer processes having errors during, system maintenance.
Pure speculation, of course.
No empirical evidence, naturally, but it's a compelling way to interpret weird, inexplicable events.
Speaking of which, anonymous sources shared this amazing IRL testimony. Someone was at a grocery store, the cashier just stops scanning, leans in kind of conspiratorially and whispers, "None of this matters."
Whoa. Just like that.
Then immediately goes back to scanning, acts like nothing happened.
That's a classic NPC glitch story. That brief, out-of-context comment that just shatters the routine.
Right.
It makes you question everything. Was it a fleeting existential crisis, a random thought slipping out? Or, in our NPC energy frame, a quick flicker of awareness beyond the usual program?
It definitely makes you do a double take, reconsider the world, doesn't it? Which leads us smoothly into Act 4. Are we the NPCs?
This is where we really turn the lens inward, confronting the possibility that the patterns we see in others might apply to us too.
Totally.
If we're so quick to spot seemingly scripted actions around us, is it possible we're operating in some predefined framework, unaware of the bigger game?
Cue the existential spiral time. So how do you even figure out if you might be an NPC? Well, here's a kind of meta NPC detection test from anonymous sources. The very act of wondering if you're an NPC might actually be a sign of a main character, someone with self-awareness, agency. But then again, maybe that's exactly what a sophisticated NPC would be programmed to think.
That's the paradox, isn't it? It's inherently self-referential. Questioning your reality could be a sign of consciousness or just a more complex program creating the illusion of it. Proof, either way. Elusive.
This is where simulation theory from Nick Bostrom comes back in.
Right, the statistical argument.
His argument basically says, given how fast tech is advancing, it's actually more likely we're in a simulation made by a more advanced civilization than we're in base reality.
Bostrom's idea hinges on the premise that once a civilization gets technologically capable enough, creating super realistic, indistinguishable simulations would be feasible, maybe even common. So the number of simulated realities could just vastly outweigh the one base reality, making it statistically more likely we're in one of the sims.
And then there's the really unconventional idea of Tulpa theory.
Oh, thought forms.
Yeah, the idea that thought forms created through focused belief can actually become real independent things. So could NPCs, if we all believe they can awaken strongly enough, actually wake up and gain real agency?
Tulpa theory gets into that fascinating intersection of consciousness, belief, and the nature of reality itself.
Pretty out there.
While it's not validated by conventional science, the idea that focused thought can influence perception, even manifest in reality, is explored in various philosophies and spiritual traditions. Applying it to NPCs raises the compelling idea that our collective belief in their potential could, somehow, contribute to it happening.
It's all getting incredibly meta, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which leads to my host reflection. Maybe the reason we even notice what we see as NPC behavior in others is because we're catching glimpses of our own programmed loops.
Ooh, that's insightful.
The ingrained patterns and routines defining our own lives.
That's a really sharp observation. Our perception of the world, of people, is filtered through our own biases, our frameworks. Recognizing patterns in others might be how our brains try to make sense of things.
Yeah.
And doing that inadvertently highlights the patterns governing our own actions, patterns we might not always be aware of.
Okay, ready for a quick mental game? Let's call it, is it scripted?
All right, I'm ready. Hit me.
I'll read some real-life quotes from anonymous sources. You at home, ponder. Potential NPC glitch, or just a profound human moment. Quote 1. The meeting will commence promptly at 9:00 a.m. in the conference room.
Okay, that sounds like standard professional protocol. Highly likely scripted, but, essential for order in the operational simulation, let's say.
Quote number 2. Sometimes I look up at the stars and wonder if any of this, anything, is real.
That hits different. While you could say it on autopilot, it feels more like genuine human curiosity, questioning reality. I'd lean towards profound human moment with a touch of cosmic unease.
Last one. Thank you for your purchase. Have a great day.
The classic transactional closing, statistically very high on the likely scripted NPC dialogue scale. Though obviously it can be said genuinely, context is key, but probability-wise, scripted.
See, not always easy to tell.
Okay.
All right, we've gone pretty deep down the existential rabbit hole. Let's try to climb back out in Act 5. Debugging the gene. Can NPCs become players?
The analogy of NPCs evolving into player characters, it's a useful way to think about change and autonomy.
Yeah.
In gaming, like you said, mods can give NPCs more freedom,
Right.
letting them make independent choices, deviate from their code, which naturally leads to asking if similar things could happen in our reality, simulated or not.
Could those moments of big personal growth, those sudden epiphanies that shift our whole perspective, or even random life-altering events, could they be the equivalent of us or the NPCs around us getting an upgrade, breaking free from patterns?
It's certainly a compelling way to frame personal transformation. Moments of deep insight or unexpected events can reshape our understanding of ourselves, the world.
Yeah.
Often leading to big shifts in behavior choices, effectively breaking us out of old routines.
And this brings us back to some timeless observations. First, Henry David Thoreau. The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation.
Poignant.
That really captures the feeling of lots of people just going through the motions, doesn't it?
Thoreau's observation speaks volumes about unexamined lives, routines becoming prisons, a lack of perceived agency. It definitely resonates with the idea of people operating within a limited script, maybe unaware of other possibilities or their own potential.
Then we have that almost archetypal phrase, "Awaken, my child, and embrace the glory that is your birthright."
Sounds exactly like
Standard NPC quest giver dialogue in tons of games, right?
Yeah.
That call towards something more, a hidden potential waiting.
Absolutely. That call to adventure, to awakening, it's a recurring theme in storytelling everywhere. It reflects that basic human yearning for meaning, purpose, something beyond the mundane. The fact it's also a common NPC trope just shows how deep those narrative structures are in our collective mind.
And here's my meta moment for this act. Our self-aware NPCs. Just what we call philosophers.
Yeah, interesting.
You know, people who spend their lives questioning assumptions, trying to understand reality. Maybe they're just the NPCs who had a really profound glitch in their programming.
That's a wonderfully provocative thought. Maybe philosophy is a kind of debugging of reality, a systematic questioning of assumptions, seeking meaning beyond the surface script. In that sense, philosophers could be seen as the vanguard of potential NPC awakening, always pushing boundaries, challenging perceived limits.
Okay, so here's this week's listener challenge for our NPC energy community. First, I want you to consciously watch people around you this week. Try spotting potential NPC behaviors.
Not judgingly, though.
No, just as an interesting thought experiment, a way to engage with these ideas.
And building on that, try intentionally interacting with someone in a way that might nudge them off their usual routine.
Like what?
Offer a genuine, unexpected compliment. Ask a slightly unusual question about their day, their hopes, maybe even about their dreams, literally or figuratively. See if you can get a response that's not the predictable script.
And finally, if you have any really interesting or weird experiences from doing this, we absolutely want to hear. Share your stories using the hashtag NPC Energy. Tag the podcast on social media. We're genuinely fascinated to hear your takes and add them to our ongoing exploration.
It's a chance to engage with the world with maybe a heightened awareness, to look past surface interactions and consider the underlying possibilities, however weird they might seem.
So, as our simulated journey into the potentially simulated lives of non-playable characters wraps up, if NPCs can dream, and if dreams help debug reality, then maybe true awakening is just a nap away for all of us.
A truly fascinating thought to chew on as we go back to our own routines. Are we just shifting from one simulation level to another? The question, it remains open.
Now, if you enjoyed this particular glitch in your day's matrix, definitely subscribe to the NPC Energy podcast and leave us a glowing 5-star rating. Consider it part of your prime directive to support independent thought or just good programming.
And please don't forget to share your own NPC awakening stories, your observations using hashtag NPC Energy, and tag us. We always love hearing your perspectives and adding them to this ongoing chat about reality and well beyond.
And make sure you tune in next time for our next simulated journey on the NPC Energy podcast. We'll be diving into the really intriguing, sometimes unsettling topic of glitch porting accidentally jumping into parallel realities. Until then, keep an eye out for those telltale loading screen eyes.